Hey guys, welcome to Tiff Talks. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my hot takes on Gilmore Girls. So, regarding Jess versus Dean, in the Gilmore Girls fandom, people highly prefer Jess over Dean. They're very vocal about it. They say that Jess is the superior boyfriend. I think between Jess and Dean, I do prefer Dean a little more. And I want to go into a little bit detail why. So, when we meet Dean in season 1, he's a very cool, smooth guy. He's very sweet. Started dating. Dean was very reliable. He showed up when he said he was going to show up. There was no wondering if he was or wasn't going to be there. He was reliable. He built her a car, which is a huge act, laborious love. He was very polite and social to her family, even when he didn't fully understand or was about what was going on, such as the coming out dance of Emily Gilmore's club. He didn't really understand what it was about and he wasn't really digging it, but he did it because he knew it would make Rory happy and he did it with a smile. He wasn't brooding the whole time or anything. The most brooding was just oh, I have to wear gloves. But he was able to do it. He tried his best to make sure that his family, he tried really hard to make sure her family felt comfortable with her. He won all her family over. Maybe not Richard, but overall he was a pretty sweet guy. His main cons, I would say, his dreams of his life are very traditional and small in a way. Rory has these big dreams of going at this point, season 1 and 2, Rory has these big dreams of going to Harvard. Eventually, she goes to Yale instead, and becoming this worldwide reporter. And Dean, his dream really is to be a family man, to come home to a wife that cooks for him, and he's out working a more blue collar-esque kind of job. He doesn't really dream big. He doesn't even really dream of leaving Stars Hollow, really. Another thing, this kind of goes along with this, is his support on Rory's dream to go to Yale. Sometimes it does feel a little hot and cold. I feel like maybe it's the writers, because in the beginning in season 1, he's oh, I love that Rory wants to go to Yale. When he first heard that, he met Rory when she was moving out of Stars Hollow High in Chilton, this really smart school. He found that very impressive. The first thing that made him notice her was the fact that she was so into reading and she'd be so absorbed into her books and stories that she wouldn't realize what was going on around her, because she was just had that level of focus. So in the beginning, it seems that he really likes that she's smart and super academic. He seems really into that. And it seems like in moments of heat, when they get into arguments, he'll say things oh, who cares about Harvard, blah, blah, blah. He'll say these kind of comments. This happened pretty early on in the season, where Rory, she hears from her classmates, specifically Paris from Chilton, that grades aren't enough to get into an Ivy League. You could have the top grades, but everyone applying to those schools have top grades, and the things that set you over the top are extracurriculars. This is true. This is true in real life. And she has been a bit of a hermit. She really keeps to herself. If she ignores her grades regarding extracurriculars, there's not that much to put on her transcript. She gets extremely anxious about this, me check the time. She gets extremely anxious about this information. She's like, oh my God, I gotta start right now. I'm already behind. I'm so behind. And she's also behind in schoolwork in Chilton because she moved to Chilton in the middle of the year. So she's so like overwhelmed. And when Paris tells her this, she kind of mentions that there's this building, this like National Habitat for Humane Society kind of thing where they send a bunch of teenagers to build houses, um, and then she's like, oh my God, I have to join that right now. It's like, okay, oh, it's today, it's this weekend. Okay, I could do it. And she decides this very last minute, and like where her and Dean have plans beforehand and they haven't been hanging out lately. They set aside time for that evening or later that day to hang out, and she randomly decides that she's going to do this Habitat for Society thing instead of that. Like she randomly decides that day. And when Dean hears that Rory is blowing him off, he gets upset, and in the heat of the moment, Rory goes like, Dean, this is about Harvard. And then he's like, oh, it's about Harvard. Sorry, I forgot. It's not like I'm going to Harvard, so I don't care. And da 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 da. And he says all this stuff, which was really dumb. Like from a teenage perspective, I kind of get it because it's like he's just frustrated in the moment. And I feel like anyone would be frustrated in the moment. I feel like when I get flaked on last minute, I'm upset. And it's not really about like the fact that he doesn't care about Harvard because he just said that in the moment. It's just like he literally said like, why can't you start next week or tomorrow or the day after? He's like, no, she's like, I'm already behind. I have to start right now. That's not really true. If you're behind today, you could be behind. If you're behind yesterday, you could be behind today and then start new on Monday. Like, there's no need, like, there's gonna be other stuff. You're in Chilton. You go to Chilton. There's probably clubs and activities and special events happening all the time that you could participate in to build up your resume. You don't necessarily have to start today. But I get where she's coming from, too, as someone who was also cared about school. And, you know, like, I kind of get where they're both coming from. The thing is, people use this moment to say Dean doesn't care about Rory's schooling and Harvard. But that's not true, because later in the episode, he genuinely apologized, being like, hey, I'm sorry. You know, I was being really immature. I was being stupid. Of course I care that you care about Harvard. And if it's something, you know, you care about, I love that you're smart. I'm sorry I said that. He genuinely apologized. And people who criticize Dean for that moment completely ignore the fact that he genuinely, sincerely apologized later in the episode. In the same episode. Like, you didn't even have to wait an episode for him to apologize. Like, he apologized later that same episode. So, I feel like he was criticized more for that moment than he should have been. That's what I have to say about him being hot and cold about his support of Harvard. Later on, when Jess gets introduced in season 3, I feel that the writers wanted Jess to be more appealing and wanted Rory to go to Jess. And I feel that because they wanted that, almost tried to write in things to try to make us turn against Dean. And it's like, this is not the same Dean I knew in season 1, you know? Like there was a point where Dean was like, hey, so what happens when you get into Harvard? Do we break up? And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? That's what I mean by like his support about Rory's dreams are very hot and cold. There's moments he feels pretty supportive of Rory's dreams in the beginning. When they fight, it seems like his support wavers, and then later on his support is just not really there. So that is a genuine con. And I feel like his other cons are very related to Jess. So I want to talk about Jess a little bit. So Jess is coming from New York. He has a lot of behavioral problems. His mom is very overwhelmed and she feels like she can't handle him. So she sends him to live with Luke in Stars Hollow. She just packs him up and he puts him on a bus and Luke gets him. And Jess had no say in the matter. That is just what happened. And she really sent him there and didn't talk to him, didn't reach out to him on the phone. He just packed all his stuff. She really abandoned him. Jess comes into Stars Hollow. He is pissed. He is very upset. He's very angry. And honestly, he has every right to be. What happened to him was horrible. He moves into Stars Hollow. He's not feeling the town. He's in a place in his life where he feels so abandoned and hurt. And he causes a bunch of chaos that makes the townspeople really not like him. He meets Rory. He obviously has a crush on her, but she's in a relationship with Dean at this point. And that's when all this chasing happens. Something I'd like to say about Jess is I feel like people really romanticize the fact that Jess is so into the chase. When he's trying to get with Rory, he is chasing and he is working so hard. He's going to that company picnic. No, what was it? It was the picnic basket betting competition or like whatever it was. He's laying down like $100 like for really like a Slim Jim and some stale chips. Like there's nothing in that basket. He did that specifically to get with Rory, get with Rory when Lorelai was doing that whole event in her inn and invited the town over. There was a point where they were all getting into carriages, and then Jess Superman's in that carriage, in a moving carriage, just jumps right in, trying to like talk to her. So during the time frame where, and when he sat with what was supposed to be his girlfriend, and sat with her to watch Rory and Dean in that dance marathon thing. That's actually so crazy to sit there and watch someone that you're not even with while you're dating somebody else. Like that was like, people really like romanticize that Jess is so into the chase. But like some of this behavior is like a little bit insane to me. Jess is into Rory. Rory's in a relationship with Dean. So a lot of season 3 is a lot of Jess and Rory flirting, and then Rory is essentially gaslighting Dean to be like, oh no, he's not flirting, like I just want us all to be friends and da 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 this and that and third. And Jess is just keeps going and going with these antics, and Rory is not shutting it down. And she has the audacity to sit there and play dumb. Like really, that's what it is. And I think one of the earliest examples of this is picnic basket betting competition thing. So Jess outbids Dean and wins a date with Rory because he bid most on the basket. And then Dean is like, this is ridiculous. She's not going to go off with you. I feel super uncomfortable with that. I don't want that to happen. And then Rory is sitting. Honestly, she wanted to go on a date with Jess. That's really what it was. Because she really has the audacity to sit there and play dumb. She's just like, oh, well, it's just the rules. Like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing I could do, you know? Like, I'll just go. Like, it'll be okay. And then Dean is very upset about this because he has made it very clear that he does not like Jess. He feels that he has bad intentions for her. And he strongly prefers for her to try to avoid him when possible. He is just not, because he sees right through it. He sees right through it. And Rory has the audacity to sit there and play dumb and act like, oh, you know, I guess I have no choice but to go off and just have a one-on-one date with Jess because he, like, it's just like, girl, you could have shut that down if you wanted to. Like, don't sit there and, like, act dumb. Like, that's, like, my biggest thing with her. Like, when it comes to this stuff, because she knows what she's doing. She's very aware of it. And Rory and Jess go off, have a picnic date. That's one thing. And on my rewatch, something that like was really flabbergasting me was like after the picnic date, they extended hanging out by like going to record stores and looking at music and going to a bookstore and then getting pizza. And it's like, girl, be serious. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, like, I want to follow the rules of the picnic competition thing because this and that. That's one thing. But and then Dean is like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And then you fully ignore him and essentially go off on a date with Jess. And on top of that, instead of being like, okay, well, I fulfilled my obligation, so bye. Instead of doing that, you go out of your way to continue hanging out with Jess for the entire day in a one-to-one setting. You are on a date that lasted like an entire day's worth of time, an entire day with someone that is not your man. That was so insane. And when she came home and Lorelai was like, hey, where you been? It's just like, yeah, I went to a record store, I went to a bookstore. It's just like, were you alone? It's like, no, I was with Jess. And like, she really said that like she wasn't even trying to hide it. Do you seriously not understand why someone would be upset by that? Especially when Dean said in that episode, please don't go. Please don't go off with him. I feel like this is bad news. Like, he explicitly said that you ignored him, and not only did you go on the date, you extended the date for multiple hours. That was so crazy. There was an episode where Lorelai was going away, so Rory had the house to herself. She claims that she wants to spend the day doing laundry and ordering Indian food. And then Paris barges in, and she demands that Rory and her study, which is just like, girl, why are you letting people walk into your house and tell you what to do? That's crazy. That's so crazy. And then during all this, Jess was like, hey, I want to drop off food. And then he goes, and then he just invites himself in and starts like eating and talking and doing all this stuff. And then it's just that, and then the thing that it's like, Jess, come on. And it was only when she got a message from Dean saying that, hey, like, I'm gonna come over. It was only when she got that message where she was just like, okay, Jess, you actually have to get out of here. Like, so now we're seeing that she actually had the ability to make him leave the entire time and actively chose not to because she secretly did kind of want him there. And she only did it because she didn't want Dean to be mad at her. And at this point, she knows Dean has a problem with Jess. Like, she knows Dean does not like Jess. And so Dean walks in and she sees Jess in his girl's house when he wanted to hang out with her. And she's like, no, I want to be alone to do laundry, eat Indian food. Of course he's going to be like a little like upset. I would be angry. People criticize Dean a lot for kind of yelling at Rory at this point, but honestly, I kind of understand that reaction because I have a problem with this man. I see him as bad news, and he's in your house. At this point, something people criticize Dean for is the fact that he gets really clingy. And honestly, I do see some clingy behavior, like that time he called her 14 times in one day. And like she couldn't answer because like it was like a home phone. They didn't have like cell phones really at the time. And like it's just like, oh my god, if someone called me 14 times in one day, if I looked at my phone and saw 14 missed calls, someone better be dying. Like, it better be so serious. Like, that was crazy. And like that was insane. However, I feel like a certain level of clinginess is understandable because Rory is fully going on dates with Jess. She's talking to Jess on the phone. She's flirting with Jess in front of Dean. She is doing all that. And then when Dean is kind of like, what's going on? She's just like, oh, he's just, I just want us all to be friends. Why can't we all just bake cupcakes and be happy together? And like, she's just saying all these like ridiculous things that don't make sense. So she, like, anytime Dean confronts her about it a little bit, she's basically gaslighting him. And another thing I see people criticize Dean for, and like labeling him as angry, was related to Jess. There was this episode, Dean is away and he's visiting family in Chicago. Rory is tutoring Jess because Jess is failing out of school at this point. And while they're studying, they basically like get in the car that Dean built for her. Jess is driving the car because they need to get ice cream in cones, because that's going to be the reward motivation to study for the rest of the night. And even though they're in a diner and there's ice cream in the diner, they need the ice cream in cones. Allegedly, this is very important. So Jess and Rory get in the car, and this is the car Dean built for her. Jess gets in the driver's seat, and he crashes the car. Rory breaks her wrist, or like fractures it or whatever, and the car is destroyed. And when Dean comes back to everything that's going on, he sees Rory in a cast, and she's holding this letter because Rory is too anxious to tell him about why she has a cast, because she knows that it has to do with Jess, and she knows that Dean does not like Jess. And people criticize Dean a lot for this, because it's like, oh, like, your girl shouldn't be so scared to talk to you, to the point where like she can't even like say it, she has to like write it down. And it's just people take the fact that Rory even felt the need to write it down instead of just talking to him as like a red flag. It's like, oh, see, she's so scared of his reaction. But the thing is, like, the which like is true to a certain extent, but the thing you're not considering is Rory is just a coward in general. She's a coward in general. She is truly like a master manipulator. And she knows what she did was wrong. She knows she had a major role in the events that happened that night. And she knows she was dead in the wrong. She is aware that she is wrong for this. But the thing is, she still wants to fulfill this role other people are putting her in, of being this golden child and always wanting to be nice and never doing anything wrong and being such a golden angel special girl. She, like, everyone projects on this image and this box for her, and she so desperately wants to fill it, and she knows that her behavior and her decisions regarding that night does not fit into that. And Dean made it very clear, it was not ambiguous at all, that she does not want her with Jess if she could avoid it. And she knows that she's in the wrong. I really think that's what it is. So he gets upset. He kicks a trash can. And then he's just like, is he really gone? Because after that episode, he left town, essentially. And it's like, people criticize Dean for getting upset and like kicking like a garbage can or whatever. But the thing is, like, he built her that car. He has so much beef with this Jess character. Rory is aware he has beef with this Jess character. And she let this Jess person drive the car that Dean built up for her, knowing that Dean has a problem with him. And while he was doing that, he demolished the car, completely messed it up. It looks like an accordion, and broke his girlfriend's wrist. And you're really telling me he's in the wrong for being angry? I would also be angry. I would be furious. I would be crying. Like, I would honestly, I might break up over something like this. Like, this is crazy. And people criticize him for being angry and kicking a trash can. He has a right to be angry. Look at what happened. And he warned her over and over and over again, Jess is not a good to be around. He's always getting in trouble. And it's like, it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. when Jess starts to meet Rory's family, he makes zero effort to even be a little bit social and have like basic level small talk. He makes negative zero effort. He's overtly rude to Lorelai. When he meets the grandmother, he's showing up with a black eye and he's showing up late. He can't even be a little bit polite and normal. And in front of Rory's grandmother, Jess is getting into an argument with Rory in front of her grandmother. His rudeness is very intense, to be honest with you. It's very intense, and I feel like he doesn't get enough criticism for that. He puts a lot of effort into Chase, but he puts zero effort in the actual relationship. Once him and Rory start dating, like once they are actually boyfriend and girlfriend, he doesn't really plan a date with her. She's sitting there waiting by the phone and he's never calling ever. Jess loosely mentioned that he bought concert tickets because basically Lorelai told it when he showed up at the house and Rory wasn't there. Lorelai told him, like, hey, you should put in some effort. And then only because he had that conversation with Rory's mom was when he bought concert tickets, but we never see them go on that date. He really is not there at all. Like there's like he puts a lot of effort in the chase. Once he gets the girl, he doesn't even spend time with her, not really. And honestly, I think he simply just wasn't in the right headspace to be a good boyfriend. After his mom abandoned him in Stars Hollow, honestly, I think what happened was he was so traumatized by that and he really wanted some money so he could have control over his life. This is just me theorizing, but I really think that's what happened because the fact that he's a kid, he's 16, he doesn't have any money, his mom just abandoned him, so now his well-being, whether he has a roof over her head or food to eat or a way to maintain his car, all of that depends on the mercy of others and what they decide the rules are. He lacks so much control in this moment of his life, and it's really deeply traumatizing to him. And honestly, I think that is what prompted him to be working full-time and overtime at Walmart, because I think in his mind he figured that if he at least had some money, if someone decides to abandon him again, at least he has some money, so that money translates to having some level of control and security. I think that was what was going on in his mind. He felt that if he did that and then he just showed up to take the test in school because he just showed up enough to pass the test, he could still pass school. And he figured that if he did that, everything would work out. But the thing is, school has absence policies, and he ended up dropping out of high school. Which, honestly, it is sad. So I think, really, he just wasn't in the right headspace to be a good boyfriend. And I think he was just dealing with too much trauma. So I don't think Jess is the ultimate boyfriend the fandom thinks he is. I really don't. Jess, the thing the fandom likes about Jess is that they feel that he's more compatible with Rory because he loves reading, which is true. He does like reading a lot. And his support of Rory going to Yale, it doesn't waver the same way Dean's does. Even though I kind of see how he failed out of school and why he was working full-time and overtime, even though I could kind of see his perspective, I feel like if you're a high school dropout, I feel like you don't really have any business being with a valedictorian. At least when you're in that teenage phase. You know what I mean? Like when you're both in that moment. I feel like it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I'm not super into Jess. I think when it comes to Dean versus Jess, I do think Dean comes up on top, to be honest with you. But in terms of my ultimate favorite boyfriend for Rory, I think it is Logan. I think Logan matches her perfectly. He has this playfulness and this lightness to him. She doesn't feel like she has to manage his emotions the same way she felt with Dean and Jess, to be honest with you. And I feel like they're more on the same level, the same intellect. And I feel like Logan's presence, you see, he puts effort in the relationship, and I feel like she's able to relax and have fun. And that should be what a relationship is. You should be able to relax and have fun, at least in the beginning. And I feel like she wasn't relaxed or having fun with either of these people. So that's my take in terms of boyfriends for her.